everybody, it's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Kingsland in Brooklyn, and today we are here with the almighty Allegaeon. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's the first time someone said her name right, and it shook me.
Really?
Yeah.
No one ever does it right.
It
No one
totally
ever
just-
What, they
right.
say Allegaeon or
They
something?
say Allegaeon is more
blew-
popular.
You blew my mind by being right.
Thank you. I before E except after C, and it also applies to G.
That's right.
So that's why, well, actually, never mind, actually. But your newest album is Apoptosis, another great album name to go along with your band name. That
Yes, of course, of course.
But you guys just want to give a rundown on how the making of the record's been?
I mean, it was very different. It was very different. We had a lot of time on the road, and we, did some on-the-road time writing, which was... With this record, I feel like we didn't have the time to be as, I don't like this, let's change it. You know what I mean? It was much more, off-the-cuff, writing style, which I feel contributed to the album in, a really positive way, because it just made it so much more, real, and it gave it such a greater depth of, emotion and musical dynamics. And I think that's probably the most interesting point about the writing process, is that it was just very different. We were under a lot of stress of being on the road. We had deadlines and stuff, but that kind of pressure created a really cool, really raw kind of record for us.
It's very kind of bestial. That's a weird word to use, but it was
primal.
Primal. It was
Yeah.
Brutal to write it.
Yeah.
Just painful record.
Yeah.
So glad it's over.
Allegiant at their most human was for sure the writing of fucking Apoptosis.
The strong editing pen couldn't really do it.
No.
Now, conceptually, could this be considered a direct follow-up to Proponent of the Sentience, or do you think that this record is completely stand out on its own?
Yeah. Proponent was its own concept from beginning to end. You know what I mean? And that concept ended with Proponent 3. You know what I mean? And it's pretty apparent in the lyrics how it's front to end. It's like a movie. You know what I mean? And this one, it's got a theme for sure. Lyrically, anyway. I don't know about musically, but lyrically, it's got a theme. And it's all about death leading to a new and better life, which is basically what apoptosis means. It's it's the programmed death of cells within a living organism to make room for new cells to contribute to the organism's growth.
Was this a preconceived idea to come up with this concept, or did you have to lay down?
No, it was just something that kind of came to me while I was doing a little bit of research on some topics for song matter and stuff like that, trying to stick to the science thing that Allegiant is known for. And when I stumbled across that, it really resonated with me because it reminded me of us. You know what I mean? It reminded me of the band, because it was we've had so many changes over the years and been through so many members and so many different people on our back end, and now we're finally at this point where it's I think this is our best record, and I think that we're in a position to really excel, but it took a lot of death to get to that better life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I named the album that. That's why it really resonated with me.
Awesome. Now, one thing I've really found fascinating about Allegiant, I've seen you guys live on 2 separate occasions, and I feel like you guys have the best of both worlds, and you guys are a very rhythm-driven band, but you also have great melody as well. Is there kind of something that always comes first in the recording process, in terms of, do you lay down riffs first, or is there a melody that you follow, or...
Drums come first.
Yeah,
Drums always come first.
Always. Yeah.
I was trying to be a jackass right there, and I fell completely short. I mean, in the writing process or the recording process?
Recording process.
Yeah,
So
writing
what about,
or recording.
So what about when you're laying down guitar stuff? Do you guys just go fucking...
Guitars always come first, then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you lay down a scale or a chord progression, and then maybe Michael writes a soloing over that, or...
No, it's completely separate. Mike writes his shit, I write mine, and it's rare that the two shall intertwine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Dude, that was a fucking Lord of the Rings poem. It's kind of shit where it's and then they saw etched on the cave walls Mike writes his shit and I write mine, and it's rare that the two shall intertwine. It's...
Wow, that was beautiful.
That was some Tolkien shit. I liked it.
You might have just come up with a good lyric there.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that tattooed on my fucking torso.
That'd be beautiful.
Sometimes brilliance is accidental.
You know?
That's the best quote ever.
That's what they said about the A-bomb. I mean, what?
And it still stands.
Now, one thing I've always actually was curious about with Allegiant, I think you guys have a very experimental style of music. So when trying new things, is it a little bit easier? Because I feel like you guys aren't, there's elements of death metal, there's some elements of prog, there's some technical elements in there. So do you guys like to try new things when making new music? Or is there kind of like a formula that you guys stick with?
I feel like there used to be a little bit more of a formula, but with this record, we like completely threw that out the window. And we were just like, let's just write music. And like whatever happens kind of thing. And obviously it's not like we just like went with the first idea we puked out, you know what I mean? Like we made revisions and we, passed songs around, peer reviewed it and all that kind of stuff, but we were less concerned about being like, oh, this needs to sound like this, like it needs to have this structure kind of thing.
I almost feel like we accomplished something really special with Proponent, and it couldn't, like, to go further in that style it wasn't really an option.
Yeah.
It was kind of like we ended that album perfect. I couldn't imagine how we could do that better.
Like that style
or again,
better than
like
what we did with it.
I feel so much pride with that record that we had to do things different. There's just no way. It's like, so there's no huge orchestral intro, it's a completely different animal than anything we've done before. And there's some of that's on purpose. Like we knew we didn't want to repeat ourselves with doing the orchestra stuff. But some of it, it's just like, we have no fucking time. We have to just go. And then
crank out some songs.
And, when I say it was painful, like some things within that, it's just like, there's a couple songs that's not in pop format. Like it's kind of through compose, and that wasn't on purpose. It's just like, that's the way the songs came out.
Yeah.
So like, because we're under the gun, it forces creativity.
It feels like you guys have kind of like the best of both worlds and having a very raw and organic method of making music, but you also are able to control the chaos in a way.
Yeah. I mean...
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah. I mean, controlled chaos is not really probably how I would view it, but it's a good way of putting it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a... especially with the writing process for this last record, it was like very chaotic circumstances that we were under to make this record happen, but we like figured it out and put a leash on that shit, and I think it's like our best record to date. So
awesome. Now, one question I do have for you specifically, Riley, is depending like if you're doing like if you're utilizing like clean vocals or you're utilizing like more aggressive vocals, is it a different experience performing it? Like, are you in a different mind frame with it?
Not really like frame of mind, but it's like a different. It's very different to sing that way. You know what I mean? Like when as a singer, your body is your instrument, and it's very, very different utilization of technique to do clean singing at a low volume versus clean singing at like a higher belted volume versus clean singing in like an operatic fashion or more like a fry vocal kind of fashion, like, and then you have the death metal vocals, which are like an entirely different animal in and of themselves, and it's more of like a muscle memory thing, just because I've been training in vocals for so long that it's like, my body knows what to do when I switch over to these styles. So I wouldn't say it's a different like mental state that I'm in when I'm either writing or recording or performing any type of vocals really, but it definitely is very different bodily actions that I have to take to make those sounds happen.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, as a guitarist, because we kind of touched upon it a little bit, when you're playing like a more melodic song or a more heavy song, is it different for you? Are you more aggressive with your instrument in the heavier songs, or are you more focused when you have to like play a slower song?
Yes. For me, it's very much different. Because I would say like the brutal aspect to Allegiant is not a natural thing for me at all. I was a thrash and prog kid growing up, so like to embrace that side of what Allegiant's become, it's very much a conscious effort, and within that, it's a visceral effort. So like because it's not a natural thing. It's a very direct thought process that I need to get into, which like you have to channel certain emotional things to be able to pull that off. And I wish it was a natural thing, and I could just like, all right, I'm gonna write something super pissed off now. It's not like that.
Yeah.
It's like I have to listen to some pissed off music and dissect that, and once I understand how to create those sounds, then I can try to internalize it and like assume emotion with it. Because if you don't do that, you're phoning it in, right? And I don't think that's a very honest way to play.
Of course.
Right? I mean, like, can you imagine if Strapping Young Lad wasn't pissed? It wouldn't sound the same.
Yeah. Well, that's what you have a Devin Townsend project for.
Right. And there's a reason that he doesn't do Strapping Young Lad anymore.
Because he's not pissed off anymore.
Because he's not that way. And, and there's the reason he doesn't want to do that. It's because it wouldn't be honest. And that's the best reason I can imagine him not doing it. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have two more questions for you guys. One is that you guys have toured with a variety of different bands. Like, one minute you're playing with Neobliviscaris, then you're playing with Rings of Saturn, and then you're doing a tour with Obscura. So, and then you did Summer Slaughter this year. So, depending on, like, the types of tours you were on, have you noticed maybe a different audience? I think talking to you off the record one time, you even say you sometimes like adjust your set list depending on the tours you're on.
100%. You know what I mean? Like, we know what style of music the bands that are headlining the tours that we're going to be on, and it's like the reason you tour is to like capture a new audience. And we play the songs that we like, obviously, and we play the songs that are popular and stuff like that, but we'll throw in a song that we're like, oh, you like Rings of Saturn? Well, check this shit out. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you like Obscura, or oh, you like Neobliviscaris? Like, well, look at what we can do, kind of thing. And it's like you play to your crowd. Like, it's just kind of I feel like a thing that most musicians do is play to your audience. If you feel like your audience isn't gonna dig something, then like you play something else.
Yeah. Have you guys noticed like a different type of audience on stage?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like on the Obscura tour, we were playing Grey Matter Mechanics, and then we switched it to Biomech in England, and it just like went off way better. So we pulled Grey Matter from the set and just left Biomech.
Play Biomech, because Biomech's like a shreddy melodic song, and Grey Matter's a little bit more like progressive metal feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. And the Obscura crowd is into that shreddy melodic stuff.
Yeah, they're into the more tech than prog.
Yeah.
So you play the more tech stuff.
Yeah, interesting. And the final question I'd like to ask you, and I want you guys both to answer this, because sometimes I either get like the longest answer or the most blatant, like, I can't even answer that question. How do you guys know when a song is done?
We don't. I just wanted to fuck with you. It's for me, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's like, even if we do stuff that's like through composed, like on the new record, like it's just like you just have to have an ear for those dynamics. You know what I mean? It's like you just have to know when it needs to fade out, when it ends. Like, and it's kind of thing where it's like I feel like we listen to enough of the music that is in a similar style to what we play that it's not like. We're not going to, like, go off the deep end and be like, oh, here's this 15-minute song that just goes and goes and goes and goes and is, like, boring and repetitive and all that kind of stuff. So when we're writing, it's just like, cool, this is done. Put a fucking fork in it. Like,
yeah. It's if it's going to be long, we want it to not seem long.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My friend showed up, like, about 30 minutes late for Yob's set yesterday at their concert, and he made it before they got to the first chorus.
Yeah.
So...
Yob's one of those bands.
Yeah.
But, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, those bands that are, like, real tone heavy, like, slow riffs. Like, it's all about, like, going to their shows and really, like, feeling it. You know what I mean? We're definitely not that kind of band. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go, I'd like to thank you guys so much for your time. And before we go party and listen to the brand new record, is there just anything else with the Allegaeon camp that you guys would like to promote? Obviously, we could be expecting you on the road fairly soon for this new record cycle.
We're going to be hitting Australia with Neobliviscaris again, Caligulasaurus Beyond Creation, Rivers of Nile for a few days in May. And after that, we're going to be doing Hellfest and Forta Rock in June. And we've got some other stuff planned for a little bit later on in the year, and that's going to be that. So, yeah, man. Check out Apoptosis coming out, Metal Blade Records, April 19th.
Apoptosis.
Fuck you.
Everybody, we are here with the almighty Allegion. Be sure to pick up Apoptosis out on Metal Blade Records this coming month. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.